My name is Emily, and at 44, I'm a television news anchor. My husband, Tom, also 44, owns a photography business. We started dating in high school and got married at 26, having been each other's first love. Our relationship evolved naturally, and we never thought of being with anyone else. When I was 25, I lost both my parents in a tragic accident, and I don't know how I would have gotten through it without Tom, who became my rock and family. After we married, Tom moved into the home my parents left me, and I found comfort surrounded by their memories and his presence. 2 years into our marriage, we welcomed a son, and our joy grew exponentially. Tom was an exceptional husband, effortlessly sharing household duties and parenting responsibilities, which made balancing our careers easier. However, my mother-in-law, Jane, didn't approve of Tom's involvement in domestic tasks. 10 years ago, when our son started elementary school, an issue arose. Jane, who lived 30 minutes away, began visiting more often to help pick him up from school, as after-school programs ended before our work hours. Her help was invaluable, especially since my father-in-law, Steve, had recently retired and was unable to assist with chores. Jane, a traditional homemaker, disapproved of Tom cooking or cleaning, often muttering things like, "Men don't belong in the kitchen," or "Our generation would never do that." During my first visit to Tom's parents' home, Jane suggested I quit my job, implying that women should focus on being housewives. She seemed uneasy about my high-profile career as a broadcaster, but Tom, who knew me from our high school broadcasting club, always supported my ambitions. Likewise, I encouraged his dream of becoming a photographer, and working as a team felt completely natural to us. While we managed the challenges of preschool years, elementary school brought new hurdles with less flexible after-school care. This led to greater reliance on Jane's assistance. However, her visits came with critiques about our home's tidiness, to which Tom would respond lightheartedly, defending his role in household tasks. Though we appreciated her help, Jane would privately express her disapproval to others, questioning Tom's choices and suggesting his domestic involvement harmed our image. I stayed silent, not wanting to confront her outdated views. Interestingly, Jane owned a smartphone, rare for her generation, and often bragged about its features, saying, "Look how easy things are now, embrace the future." She wasn't just modern with technology. While we used a paper-based grocery list, Jane pushed for online shopping, calling traditional methods outdated. Yet, when she learned delivery services could be ordered online, she urged me to switch, criticizing our old-school approach. Jane often stayed late while Tom and I cooked dinner, mentioning she needed to get home to prepare Steve's meal as he wouldn't eat alone. Since Steve couldn't handle chores, I once asked Tom why he was so cooperative. He explained that Jane's constant complaints about Steve's lack of help growing up served as a cautionary tale. Tom vowed to share responsibilities to avoid similar issues in our marriage. Jane's contradictory views confused me. She seemed amused that her son, raised in a home where chores were shared, was so involved, yet resented Steve's inaction. I couldn't understand what would satisfy her, but I suspected she took comfort in complaining. To keep the peace, I kept my distance when possible. I never imagined Jane would take such a drastic step as trying to sell our house without permission. That summer, my employer offered me a rare chance to cover a sports broadcast at an international championship abroad, a reward for years of hard work. I discussed it with Tom, who was supportive but unsure how he'd manage our son, John, alongside his busy schedule. Jane, overhearing, offered to handle things at home while I was away. Despite my hesitation due to past tensions, and with no other options, I reluctantly agreed to let her care for John. We considered having Tom and John stay at his parents' house, but the school commute made it impractical, so Jane stayed at our place during the week. After completing my overseas assignment, exhausted but relieved, I returned home on a weekday afternoon, dragging my suitcase. Jane greeted me eagerly at the door, as if she'd been waiting. Before I could thank her for helping, she dropped a shocking bombshell. She had sold our house for $300,000 and planned to keep the money. My tired mind struggled to process her words. This was our home. I questioned her in disbelief, but she confidently insisted, her eyes gleaming, claiming there was a title deed in my name. Stunned, I repeated that the house belonged to us, but Jane laughed, accusing me of lying. Realizing the conversation was going nowhere, I tried to stay calm. "Why would you sell something that's ours?" I asked. "It's mine and Tom's, our home." Her intense gaze unnerved me. "I did it to buy a new house," she declared firmly. A house for you and Tom where he won't have to do chores. I've always felt bad for him. Her words chilled me. A new house just for us. Why? I pressed, trying to understand. Because, she said, I raised Tom to avoid those tasks and I won't let him keep doing them. Her conviction stemmed from a warped view of our marriage. Gradually, I pieced together her reasoning. Jane had misunderstood Tom's casual comment that the house was in my name, believing his domestic contributions were forced because he lived in my home. I also learned that Steve's retirement had strained their finances, as they lived in a rented apartment. Desperate, Jane resorted to selling our house. I protested that it belonged to both of us and that Tom willingly shared chores, but she dismissed me, accusing me of twisting the truth. I wanted to call out her actions, but first I needed answers. Who did you sell it to? I asked. She revealed she'd worked with AA Real Estate, citing their simple online process and a lucrative offer due to high demand. Her words hit hard. The consequences of her actions were staggering. Selling our 20-year-old home for $300,000 seemed like a fortune to her, but it turned our lives upside down. Excitedly, I'd found a reputable real estate company online, but when I tried contacting them, no one answered. I asked Jane if she'd visited their office, and she casually replied, "No, you don't need to anymore." Determined to confirm the company's legitimacy, I insisted, "Visit their address tomorrow or we're done talking." Reluctantly, Jane agreed. The next day, she called me in tears. "It's not there," she sobbed. "The address is just an old, empty wooden house." I couldn't help but laugh at her naivety. Jane explained that while I was away, she found a title deed in my name and assumed she could sell the property. A supposed real estate agent assured her it was fine, even without ownership, as long as she had the deed. Trusting them, she sent the documents, and when a buyer was found, paid $4,800, half of a $9,600 commission on the $300,000 sale. Realizing the severity, I called the police, and 2 officers arrived. They explained that online real estate scams were common. Fraudsters offered free valuations, requested official documents, introduced fake buyers, collected fees, and vanished. With many vacant properties and fake addresses, such scams thrived. The officers questioned Jane, who trembled as she spoke. "The deed you sent belongs to your daughter-in-law, correct?" one asked. Jane nervously admitted it, realizing her mistake. "Even if it was your son's, why would you try to sell someone else's house?" the officer asked, incredulous. Flustered, Jane claimed, "Emily asked me to get it appraised for a sale." The officer turned to me, and I calmly denied it. He seemed to believe me over Jane, who was visibly shaken. "You can't just sell someone else's property," he scolded. "This is outrageous." Jane admitted she sent the original deed, shocking the officer further. "Will you file a theft report?" he asked me. I explained the deed was invalid since we'd already sold the house to an acquaintance years ago, using only registration information due to updated laws. Jane, unaware, thought the deed meant I still owned it. Fraudsters didn't care about verifying details. Humiliated, Jane glared at me, muttering, "Why didn't you sell it? It's wrong to sell your parents' home. People in glamorous jobs are like that." I met her gaze and said, "Tom needed the money for his photography business." Jane gasped, her face paling. I explained that we sold the house to fund Tom's dream, renting it back from the buyer. Hearing this, Jane broke down, sobbing, "I wanted to work too. Steve does nothing even after retirement. What's my life been for?" Her complaints about Steve poured out, leaving the officer struggling to finish the report. A fraud report was filed, but a decade later, the scammers remain uncaught, and the money is likely gone. After the incident, Steve took control of their finances, giving Jane cash only when needed. "It's suffocating," she told Tom, who reminded her she caused it. Now, with no personal funds, Jane works through senior job programs, teaching older adults to use smartphones, earning praise for her empathy. Steve, too proud for senior jobs, quits them quickly and contributes no income. Meanwhile, Jane's busier schedule leaves Steve with household tasks, and he's taken up cooking, excelling at it. Their roles have reversed, but both seem content. As for me, my career soared after the trip, and I now anchor the evening news. Tom's studio is thriving, and we've saved enough to consider repurchasing and renovating our home. We're grateful to our acquaintance for letting us stay despite Jane's actions. Our son, now 17, heard this story as a warning about online scams, though I omitted Jane's attempt to sell our house to protect his grandparents' dignity.